and something bad happens, you don't even have to contact them maybe. In fact, they should be taking place right now. Hi, welcome to this YouTube channel, the BR Coalition. I thank you so much for being with us. This channel exists for one main reason, to help you and as many people as possible be better prepared body, mind, and soul. Today we're talking about Plan B shelter. What do we mean by that? Plan B shelter. You have your initial shelter where you're going to be in case of a crisis of some sort. Now, crisis could be natural disaster to civil unrest, anything in between. You have that initial location where you've got most of your gear stored up, you've got water, food, hopefully. You've got all these items that you need in order to really survive a crisis. It's primarily going to be your home. That makes perfect sense. All right, this is something we want to be thinking about. We want to be thinking about how we're storing things up in our home, to have backup power, backup heat, water, medical, defense, all these basic things that we talk about that are so critically important. But if that is compromised in some way, your primary shelter, you've got to be thinking about what a Plan B location is going to be. Where do you go? How do you get there? What do you take with you? Have you established any conversation with others prior to the crisis so that you know you have another location that you can go to? And I'm a big fan of the redundancy rule. 2 is 1, 1 is none. I like 3 or 4. In other words, I like more than just one other location that I might have to go to. I like to think I can go to 3 or 4 other places, and I've established some sort of rapport with people in order for that to happen. So we're going to break that down in a little more detail and make sure that we are looking at as many different aspects of this as possible so we can be better prepared. Before we get started, don't forget to like this video, subscribe to this YouTube channel, and share this information with others. And click the link in the description below and get yourself a free download on how to fortify your life spiritually and physically, and take a look at all the things that you're going to need to really get started and be better prepared in these ways. All right, let's get into it. Your primary location, as we talked about. Primary location, your home, you've got all these different things that you're comfortable with. You've got your beds, you got your showers, you got your kitchen, washer and dryer, everything is there. And then a crisis hits and all that upheaval strikes you and you've got to bug out now. For some reason, you've got to leave. How prepared are you to leave? What items will you be taking with you when you leave? Are you preparing to be able to take things with you when you leave? The first thing we need to do above everything else is assess the situation. Look at what you've got to work with. Look at your resources. Look at locations that you can go to. Most people don't have a cabin in the woods. Most people don't have some secondary shelter up in the mountains. Most people have to look at what they've got around them. They've got to look at their neighbors. They've got to look at family. They've got to look at different areas of the city that they live in. They've got to look at different parts of the country that they live in. It's not a bad idea to assess, can you get across town somewhere else? Can you get out of town if you're in a city? Because if chaos breaks out in the city, you probably aren't going to want to be there if it gets really nasty. Do you have a location outside of the city? What if it's a regional thing where part of the country, maybe there's some sort of major unrest and you need to get to another part of the country? Can you go to another state? Do you have friends or family in another part of the country that you can get to? So we need to assess first and foremost where we have options to consider going to before we can actually think about how we're going to get there, and then the items that we need to take with us and how we implement that. The second step would be finding community. Find the people that we can work with. Look, when I recently moved from Nebraska to Texas, one of the first things that I did, I started to build some good friendships with some people. And I started to find very quickly, because of the conversation you have, what is the common denominator that we have in the friendship that we're developing. We want to have good moral connections with people, absolutely. But we also want to know that we can rely on each other as community in case there's a problem of some sort. Now, family is always a great option, but not all your family is always on board. We know this. So you've got to really work hard sometimes to find the community and then build those relationships, which means we have to nurture. Any friendship has to be nurtured from both sides. Well, when it comes to the idea of preparing for a crisis and actually having friends or family close by to be able to have your back and you have their back, then in order for that to really be solid and workable and functional, there needs to be effort put into creating and nurturing those friendships and having those conversations in advance so that you could be in a situation where if a crisis hits, you can just go right to this other person's house because they've already expected you might be there, depending upon your circumstances. If you're in a city, for example, and you've got friends or family outside that city, and you have created that community, you have found that community with them, and you've discussed this in advance, and something bad happens, you don't even have to contact them maybe. Maybe it's already been established. you know you're welcome anytime. So you're going to load up your gear, you're going to head out there, and you're going to have that community already established. So finding the community is essential here. And then taking the steps necessary to nurture that, work on that, have those conversations is also absolutely essential. The third thing is to implement. We need to implement these things. We need to put them into practice, need to act upon them. A lot of people will talk. A lot of people talk. A lot of people come up with ideas. A lot of people even make notes. Some people even go buy things and throw it in their closet. They throw it in the garage. They throw it in a room and they think, we're covered now because I have stuff. Or I've thought about stuff. Or I've talked about stuff. No, implement, act upon it. In other words, get a hard plan ready to go. Think about the vehicle that you're going to take. Make sure that that vehicle's got gas in it. One rule for me, half a tank is considered empty. I always keep at least half a tank of gas in my vehicles, so that I know that if I got to bug out fast, I got to get somewhere fast, I've at least got half a tank to start to work with. These little rules, these little disciplines that we need to put in place are ways to implement these plans. Another thing is, what can I throw in my vehicle quickly if I need to get out fast? If I need to leave my primary source of shelter and I got to get to plan B or C or D, what am I going to take with me? How am I going to carry it? Is it ready to go? I always like to say, if I have to leave in 5 minutes, something happens and I've got 5 minutes and I got to get out. And it could be something as simple as, 3 miles away, a train derails and a chemical spill happens and it's blowing into your neighborhood and you've got to bug out fast and you got to go quick and you got to be thinking about what you're going to take with you. And you don't know how long it's going to be before you can come back, or it's a fire, forest fire, or maybe it's civil unrest, whatever it is, natural disaster to man-made disaster. If you got to go fast, are you planning on how you're going to carry the things with you? Water, food, medical, defense, to head to your next location of shelter. So implementing those things by getting the right storage containers, making sure you're taking with you a miniature solar generator, for example, making sure that you have means to have power. You need to be thinking about what you'll take with you for defensive measures, food, water, how you'll carry it, and how fast it can be carried. That is implementing these things, and it's very, very important to do. Also, how will you get there? Your vehicle, is it ready to go? Do you have jumper cables? Do you have that spare tire? Everything working well? You're taking care of that vehicle? And do you have a map? If your phone goes down for some reason, you don't have GPS, and you haven't in your mind already memorized the route to where you need to go, or the route that you're traveling or that you're planning to travel is compromised for some reason, for, again, some aspect of this disaster that's going on, and you can't go that normal way, you've got to get to your secondary location, your plan B location, another way. Do you know how to get there? Do you have a paper map in case you don't have access to GPS? Do your loved ones know any of this? Do they know what to grab and go? Are they carrying things in their vehicles right now? For example, if you have teenagers and they're out and about, do they know if everything goes bad and things hit the fan on some level and in some way, that they know they can't come back to the primary location? Do they know how to get to plan B or C or D? If their GPS goes out, do they have a paper map? See, these are conversations we need to be having in advance. They should be had right now. If things are happening and we haven't had these conversations, we haven't taken these steps, then it's going to be a little more challenging or could be too late. Also, when you get to your secondary or third location of shelter, that's probably going to be, in many cases, someone else's primary location. So we need to be thinking in advance and having these conversations beforehand, what we're bringing and who else is coming, and if they can get there, and who's bringing what. So in other words, if you're going to have some sort of situation where you've got people joining forces to watch each other's back and make sure you're going to get through this together, who's bringing what resources? Who is bringing what skill, talent? In other words, we don't want to just show up and expect to live off of somebody else and hope that they can take care of everything. The goal here is to try to work together. That's where finding the community part of this is so important, because then we're in advance, we're discussing who's skilled in growing food, who's skilled in raising chickens, who can mend things, fix things, repair things, who's good at problem solving when it comes to a mechanical issue. These are all very important things to consider and should be done in advance. In fact, they should be taking place right now. I want to encourage you to go on out to our YouTube channel, BR Coalition, check out our other videos, subscribe to this channel. Again, make sure you share this information with others. Other people need to be hearing this as well, so we can all help each other, assist each other in being better prepared. And don't forget to click that link in the description and get that free download to be physically and spiritually prepared. All the steps that you can take right now to really put into action those most important things to be better prepared spiritually and physically for whatever may come our way. God bless you and strengthen you in this fight. I look forward to seeing you again real soon.